Hey everybody. My name is Jeffrey Schwarz. I had the honor of being one of the producers on this film, and I'm very good friends with Ron. And Ron asked me to come and ask him a few questions and moderate this. So welcome. And
I just want to say
hello.
thanks for being here, and you seem to have enjoyed the film, and it was really such a pleasure. I sat back there and watched it, and to watch it with you, and to feel how a room of, I imagine, actors, or people who like actors here at SAG-AFTRA, know the truth of some things that was being said. And some of the people who helped me make the film are here. Anya Leta, who is my associate producer. Anya, can you just wave? Oh, she's right here. Jay Israelson, who is the fabulous composer, the beautiful, beautiful score. Jay, just stand up. Dave Davis, who, give it up for Dave, the guy is standing back there. Is Mary Birdsong here? She was going to make it, or did Philip make it? No? Okay, well so thank you guys for being here, and thank you. And Jeffrey made this in a story that we'll spare you tonight, but Jeffrey has a lot to do with the fact that we're sitting here.
Well, Ron made the movie, so I want to ask you, Ron, how did this all come together? What was the genesis of this project?
Mary Louise and I both have houses in upstate New York, near Woodstock, New York. You saw a bit of it in that winter scene early on. So I live about a 20-minute drive from her. And we've known each other for probably 25 years now. And we have a theater company together in upstate New York called Actors and Writers. And she's the funniest person I know. And I always wanted to go to New Orleans with her because it was her hometown. And then she said, I'm going to teach an acting class. And I've never taught an acting class before. And I thought, And the storyteller in me, the dramatist, said, this might be worth recording. And I just said, I'm going to come with you and bring a camera. And we started there. We started with the class. And I happened to know people like Valerie, Harper, and Estelle Parsons, and their friends, and Charlotte Ray. And I thought, and Frances McDormand and I went to a church camp together. I was 12 and I was 13 and she was 12. And she's Francie and I'm Ronnie, and we still address each other that way. So I thought, and Melissa Leo actually is a very good friend of mine. And I thought, I want to talk to these people about what they do and compare that with what the students are going through.
So was it always, was that always in your head that you wanted to open up the story to include other actors, and it wasn't just about Mary Louise and her journey?
Yeah, it happened pretty soon because Melissa was down in New Orleans doing Treme. And, so Melissa and I and Mary Louise would hang out and we would talk about, since I was making a film about an acting class, we would talk about it. And I thought, this is, I think, I'm a filmmaker, so I know that, an hour and a half just in this classroom, I need another location. I need other voices. And I thought to compare people who have been doing it for a few decades with people who are just at the very beginning would be a very valuable thing.
And did you have to convince Mary Louise to do this film? Was it
not at
all? She was on board right away.
She was. Yeah, and it's. I think that she wanted to sort of figure out in doing this class, what is it that I do? Because it had been a long time. It was just natural for her, and there, she talked about it a lot. She said, it's sort of like trying to teach somebody to drive a car. You just do it. So she was interested in trying to articulate what it is that she does.
I was very taken with her her nervousness in doing the class. That she felt, I mean, she clearly knows what she's doing, but she felt like she was in over her head at the beginning. Was that accurate?
Yeah, she was in over her head. And for the sake of making a movie move, I have to tell you, those first, Dave can attest to it, those first 2 or 3 classes were a little agonizing. I have to say, because they were long, you know, and I'm holding the camera. I was the B camera, and Philip Dorling was the A camera. And, you know, you're holding up a camera for 4 hours, and people are saying, your shoes are purple. Your shoes are purple. And, like, it's like, I'm like, you know, like, I have to make a movie out of this somehow. So I think I was actually a little panicked myself.
I was not familiar with these exercises. I mean, I'm not an actor, so I learned so much from watching these classes. Were you familiar with all these techniques? Did you ever take acting classes?
I studied actually with, not as an actor, but as a director-writer with Win Hanman. And if you know Win Hanman is a Sanford Meisner protege. And Win is in his 90s now. He's still teaching, and I was in his class for 2 years. He didn't do repetition exercises, though. He just did. And Tracy Ellis and I met in Win's class. He did his class. It was advanced. It was text-based. Repetition is it's for beginning. It's really beginning, because I just want to make something clear. You know, you saw a lot of improving and repetition exercises and people off the text. You know, Mary Louise is very much about doing the text and using your imagination and your emotions to bring life to the text. And I said to Jeffrey earlier, in the last 9 months, I've worked with several really great actors in different things. And the one thing that they all, and shall I say who they are? Yeah, the last 9 months, I'm quite impressed with myself, actually, about this. That I've worked with Julianne Moore, Ellen Page, Michael Shannon, Steve Carell, Claire Danes, Rupert Friend, and Mandy Patinkin. That's just in the last 9 months. And the one thing that they all do when they show up to shoot a scene, folks, they do the scene that's written on the page. And that's what they believe is their job. And if they have to figure it out and they have to struggle, and the writer's there, it's like, help us understand what you were thinking, as opposed to let's all be writers together and rethink what you were thinking. And you know, so I just want to make sure, because the film has a lot of sort of these early exercises, but that does not mean that, you know, she says to them, you have to do the text, you know, but you have to fill in.
So you found that not to be the case with some actors that you've worked with, that they tend to maybe not go her route and trust in the text?
You know, look, and obviously I think some actors, and I'm sure heads will nod now when I say this, have been faced with text scripts that are not particularly good. Mine tend to be good. And at this point, it's just the truth, I have to say. You get to a certain point, it's not even false modesty, it's just a fact. And so I know that actors sometimes have had to say, like, oh my God, we have to make a scene out of this somehow. So I know that is a struggle sometimes. But I think sometimes I've experienced where an actor, and I will participate in it because I love to rewrite, but I think sometimes actors show up and it's kind of scary. We have to now put this on its feet. And it's like, and I'm doing what to her, and why is she doing it? And you know, and so sometimes the impulse is to say, but you know, if I didn't say that and you said that, then it would all make sense. And I sometimes jump right in because I love to rewrite. And I think sometimes, you know what? It's good. Let's slow down and think about this, because somebody thought a lot, I hope, about what's on the page. So maybe it's there. It's just our job is to find what's underneath the text.
So you're on a series now, and so you're writing for actors. You already know who's going to be doing the role. You know are you writing for particular actors and playing to their strengths, versus doing a screenplay where you don't know who will ultimately be cast in the film?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. I've done mostly feature film writing, and now I'm on Homeland, and I was on Ray Donovan before Homeland, and on Homeland, and I just joined, so and it's going to be a great season, guys, by the way. Set in Berlin, and she's not in the CIA. Not at first, anyway. And that's all I'm allowed to say. But, you know, Claire and Rupert and Mandy, if you're fans of the show, you know, for 4 seasons, they have not only been doing those characters, they've been winning awards and a great acclaim doing those characters. So it's a little intimidating to show up on that set and say, well, you know, actually, Claire, I think what Carrie is doing in this moment is like, but they were so welcoming. But I definitely, I think part of my talent is to be adaptable. You know, there's a lot of bullshit about like people, artists with their visions. And you know, like that's a scary word. You know, when like a writer director starts saying, you know, I want to explain my vision to you, run, do not walk in the opposite direction. It's like I don't have a vision. I have tools and I have a craft and I have some talent. You know, and there's a truth somewhere between the real people or the story and the actor and me and what we're trying to do. So it's not just me having something in my head and manipulating you to deliver what's in my head. It's somehow we meet as artist and artist, writer and actor and director. And somehow in that creation, we create something that's better than what's on the page.
I mean, I would imagine that it's a great pleasure for you to be on a set. Because is that typical for, at least in the TV world that you're in now, is that typical for the writer to be present for the shooting?
This is the difference, and this would probably be even better received at the WGA screening than the SAG screening, but maybe you'll get it as well. The difference for writers, the difference between feature films and television is that in feature films, let's face it, the people who write the checks have the ultimate authority. But putting that aside, on feature films, the director has the artistic authority when the producers let him have it, or her have it. On television, the writer has the artistic authority on the set. So I'm very happy working in television.
So tell us, I'm just curious, what happens on a set for you?
What happens on a set is that the writer-producer stands next to the director at the monitors, and we watch, you know, we do the rehearsal together, we do the blocking rehearsal together with the actors. That's when I'm at the most useful because I was in the writer's room. We're working on episode 4, for example, and this is the scene in episode 4. Unlike the director who gets hired, you know, for each episode, it's a different director per episode. I know what's actually happening in episode 5 and episode 6 and maybe even episode 12 I know. They don't know yet. Actually, sometimes we don't know yet either, but we know at least maybe 2 episodes ahead. And I know what the whole discussion was among some very smart people in a writer's room about why the scene was written this way. So that's what I bring to it. I say, this is what we were talking about in the writer's room. This is why we've written the scene that way. It's really helpful to people to understand. And by the way, and this is where you're going. And that's why actually we need to do it this way now, because you're headed somewhere. So that's what I provide on the set. And you know, we watch and then I confer with the director. So the director speaks to the actors, but I will say, John, actually, I think it should go this way. And they're missing the point, and here's the point, and then the director expresses that.
So an actor, if you're shooting episode 3, an actor won't know what's going to happen in episode 9. So
nope.
So you're there to help sort of not necessarily let them know what's going to happen in episode 9, but kind of guide them in a direction.
It can be very confusing to say, look, 5 episodes from now you're going to be, you know, on a plane and you're going to be in exile, whatever. That you don't get that specific with it, but you sort of say, this is where you're headed. This is the arc that we're planning for you, and that's why this moment is what it is right now.
So can we get back to the film a little bit with Mary Louise? Had you seen her perform? I mean, she was a very well-known entity in the New York theater, of course, for many, many years.
Of course.
So
you know, I'm actually a groupie. I mean, I've seen Full Gallop, which, did anybody see her one-woman show about Diana Vreeland? It was extraordinary, and I think I've seen it at 6 different venues. I surprised her in London. You know, I was like a stalker almost, you know. So no, I'm a huge fan.
So you get a sense of where she fits from the film, but you know, did you feel that she was underappreciated? Was that part of the reason why you wanted to highlight her in the film? You know, where did she place for you?
I love what Frances McDormand says about their actors who have lived lives of obscurity, and they have changed our lives by a performance that we've seen them do. And Mary Louise is certainly no longer obscure. I mean, you know, she's just been on Broadway with Kristen Chenoweth. I mean, she is certainly in New York theaters, she's a living legend, you know. But I would say, in terms of the popular culture, she's obscure. I mean, the students had they Googled her, but if they hadn't Googled her, they wouldn't know who she was. So I think that actually also is a part of the appeal for me, that, you know, we don't all become famous. As a matter of fact, most of us don't become famous. Most artists don't become rich and famous. And some of us stick it out anyway. You know, and that, I think, to me, when people say, like, you know, they come up to me as a writer and people say to me, you know, I have a lot of great ideas for television shows. I'm like, good luck. You know, like, that's not what I do. I don't, like, have an idea. I get up every day at 5 a.m. and I work, and I've been doing that for 34 years. You know, that's what I live, the life of a writer. And I think Mary Louise has, as one of the guys says, has lived the life of a working actor, which means that there are times where people just think you're great. They just think you're great. And then a couple months later, they don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. And you stick with it somehow, and you make a life out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the perception among people who are not in the industry of what an actor's life is like. I mean,
red carpet.
Yeah, glamour, red carpet, everybody's a millionaire and driving around Beverly Hills. And there she is trying to get somebody to produce one of her plays, and they won't return her phone calls, and she's got a Tony on her shelf, you know. And I was really struck by that, you know, the whole idea of the Tony curse, which is like, I think people would assume, like, oh, well, you got an Oscar or a Tony, well, you're set for life, you know, the phone will never stop ringing. So I was really struck by that. And was that something that you talked to her about, because you've known her for quite some time, was that something that she was struggling with, trying to work, just trying to keep working?
I think it's what most actors struggle with. I mean, I think, you know, I think everyone I know, except for people who are perhaps stars on successful television shows, and then they feel trapped, you know, because they've got like this 7-year contract. So, you know, you know the old saying, like, make an actor unhappy, give him a job. You know, so Mary Louise is kind of in that category. It's like, yeah, I got a job. Oh, you won't believe what they're paying me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know. And then they said the rehearsal has to start at 9 a.m. It's like, and then how are you? Oh, I'm terrible. I haven't had an audition for, you know, she's like 84. It's like, I haven't had an audition in 3 months. Like, you're 84. Yeah. You know, so life is a struggle sometimes.
And
right?
she did have that moment where she could have been a celebrity, you know, like a household name celebrity with One Day at a Time and going on game shows and that kind of thing. If she wanted that, she probably could have had that, or been on the Golden Girls, or been a B. Arthur kind of a person, you know. But she chose not to go that route. I mean, she had it and she quit. She left.
Well, I don't know if she chose. I think that what she was saying was that other things took over her life, mm-hmm. you know, her alcoholism and self-doubt and self-sabotage. You know, and I so appreciate that she spoke with the camera running about that stuff, you know, and she's not one of those people that talks about how unfair the business is. She says, yeah, I screwed it up sometimes, you know, but then I pulled through. Mm-hmm.
What did you learn about her that you didn't know at the beginning before you started making the film?
Well, you know, I didn't know much about her childhood, and I didn't know much about her family because she didn't really talk about it. So that was kind of a reunion, mm-hmm. in a way, and bringing her family. We kind of recorded her family coming back into her life, mm-hmm. you know, which I'm quite happy to have been there and met them.
So the stories about her brother and about her sister Taffy, these are things that you learned in the process of making the film?
I have to be honest. So not only are we in a theater group together, but Mary Louise and I are also in a writers group together, and have been. And I wrote a book in that. I plug my book right now. I should have copies over here to sell, but I don't. But it's going to be reprinted next spring. I wrote a memoir in it called Blue Days, Black Nights, and Mary Louise was working on for years a memoir which is just been published, actually. So purchase it, and it's called My First 100 Years in Show Business. And so I heard a lot of those stories about her brother and her childhood there.
I mean, I was really struck when Anya found all of that incredible material that was just sitting in some basement somewhere, all those home movies that had not been screened in, I don't know, 50 years or something like that. And there it is in full color, seeing these people come to life. What was it like for you to see that? They were acting. And they were all acting, yeah. What was it like for you to see all of that?
I think I got a little teary-eyed, yeah. Did they write some questions?
I think we might have some questions, yeah.
So
I'm so curious what people would like to know about this film. Let's see here.
Yes, I am single. Oh, that wasn't one of the questions, sorry.
Oh, it is actually. Let's see here. Oh, these are good questions. Okay, let's see. Caitlin would like to know, where are you, Caitlin? Are you here? Oh, hi, Caitlin. What was the thinking behind only interviewing other female actors within the film? That's a great question.
You know, you have to limit. You just can't make a movie about anything, and that's one of the things that I know, just having told stories and for a long time, is that you have to decide, okay, this one's not going to be about that. This one's not going to be about that. And so my subject was a woman of a certain age, and I thought I would talk to other women of a certain age.
Let's see. Marla. Where's Marla? Hi, Marla. This is a long question. Let's see. I should read it first. It's a five-parter. What was the shooting ratio, and how difficult was it to decide what to keep in versus what to cut out? There was a lot of footage. I've seen it all.
Yeah, Jeffrey's the only person who's looked at all of it.
There was the class itself.
I think there are about 110, 120 hours of film, and the film is 78 minutes.
Yeah. The class, there were about 6 or 7 classes, I think.
Oh, no, God.
No,
they're like 20 or something.
Oh,
It went on forever.
A lot of classes.
Yeah. And there were 2 cameras. There's a lot of footage. So it was, yes. Yeah. But I don't think that's that unusual in documentaries. Jeffrey, by the way, is an award-winning real documentary filmmaker. He's been doing it for many years.
You're a real documentary filmmaker.
Well, I know, but you're like realer.
No, but you're really real. Okay. I mean, there were interviews that were at least 10 or 12 hours of just interviews, the class, and then Mary Louise and all the different environments that she put her in. Was there anything that you shot that it was really hard for you to let go of? Because obviously, a film, you have to lose a lot of wonderful things along the way.
You know, I don't think so. Actually, this good stuff rises to the surface. It was a long editing period. You know, Jeffrey. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce Eric. You didn't speak up. Eric Martin is my post-production supervisor and also one of the fabulous editors. Eric. And so Jeffrey and Eric and Tyler Hubby are the 3 editors on it, and there was just a lot, as there would be on any documentary. But eventually, this stuff that I love the sign on her stove, you know, where it says "Do not walk away from stove unattended," and we could till the very end, could we, Eric? We couldn't figure out how to get that in. It was almost like the last thing, and I kept saying, "I love my sign. Why can't my sign like everybody?" You know, the more reasonable voices would say, "Ron, there's just no place to cut to it," and I'm like, "I really like it." And eventually, one day, he's in Eric's cutting room and said, "Oh wait, I know we could put the sign here." So yeah, I held on to the stuff I loved.
Does anybody have any questions? We can wing it from here. I don't have yours, but feel free to ask it. I can hear you. I can hear you fine. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. How would someone best begin a writing career in television at this time, who has no previous background in television?
Boy, we could be here a long time. You know, how best to? Oh man, what should I say to that? You know, the way it's happening in television now is that people are interning, and then they are becoming assistants, and they are spending 2 years, 5 years, going and buying lunch for people, and answering phones, and occasionally being allowed to take a peek at the process. And it's those people who, in those roles, are willing and hardworking and pleasant about it and don't expect that they should be rich and famous tomorrow, who you notice, and they then get invited to step into the process a little bit and eventually become collaborators. That's the experience that I have watching younger people breaking into television. The other way that people break into television is that they are successful at something else. Television now, they love to hire people who have a hit play, that's provocative, or they've written a novel that's provocative. So, so those are two suggestions.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about the film that was just announced that is going to be opening at the Toronto Film Festival?
Well, thank you, Jeffrey, for that. Well, now that you mention it, yeah. So I have, I'm having a good year. There's a film called Freeheld that we're going to have our gala world premiere at Toronto on the night before Rosh Hashanah. Actually, I understand. On Sunday, September 13th, and Julianne Moore and Ellen Page and Michael Shannon and Steve Carell. Not a bad cast, and it's based on a true story, a documentary film that was made in 2006 about Laurel Hester, Detective Laurel Hester, and her partner Ellen Page, who were denied anyway, I don't want to tell you the whole story, but it's a gay marriage. It's about the fight for the right, which we have won, and Laurel and Stacy, played by Julianne and Ellen, it's a love story between them, and I think it's might make you. It's a moving. Oh, one of my producers is here, Richard Fishaw. Anyway, it's that's what it is. So
it looks great. I can't wait to see it. So I think we're going to wrap it up. But thank you everybody for coming.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.